Hello and welcome to the Yarnings podcast. I'm Christine and I'll be your host. This is episode 53. I'm calling it the Yarnings Mascot. It is Monday, April 5th, 2015. It was cloudy when I wrote my show notes, and now I actually see some blue sky. Looks like it has gotten a little nicer outside in the last few hours since I've been straightening up my craft room, because that kind of has to happen sometimes. I haven't spent a lot of time in here for the last few weeks, and that's why there wasn't an episode last week. It just got so busy. So when I am busy, I don't come into my craft room nearly as much as I would like to. So I had to do a little bit of unburying to be able to podcast today and be organized enough to tell you stuff. And if you hear sawing in the background, I'm going to try and noise cancel that, but the neighbor is building something. He tends to just randomly do it, and I can't always tell what he's doing. So I know you're not here to listen to me talk about what the neighbors are doing or aren't doing. I am recording on a Monday because the yoga class that I'm really enjoying is on a Tuesday, and that takes up a big chunk of my Tuesdays. I'm probably going to start recording on Mondays or Wednesdays, so we will see what works best. All right, so I would like to welcome new and returning viewers. I am so glad you're here today. You guys are just fabulous, and I really appreciate all of the conversation and the community that the Yarnings watchers have built. The forums on the Railroad group are just always so much fun to go see what you guys are doing and saying, and I really appreciate that. So I would like to take a chance to welcome some of our members who've introduced themselves since the last time that I read through the list. I think that was episode 50 was the last time. So in however long that was, less than a month, we have added another 10 members that have introduced themselves. We are up to 194 members total in the group. And so that's a pretty fun thing. All right, so I'd like to introduce you to Wendy. She's Wenmeg. I met her at Zombie Apocalypse. Elvin's Knit is Sharon. Blecky is Miriam, and she won the Dark Matter Knits contest for the Harmonize pattern, and so I recognized her name from that. Nitty Girl is Heidi, and we've been following each other for quite a bit. She has the Undead Yarn podcast, but we follow each other on Instagram, and she's knit my Harmonize pattern just recently. Westerly Whimsies is Becky. Cheryl Dawn 25 is Cheryl, and she's from Newfoundland. My ladder is Jen, who is Blue Nap on Instagram, and we've followed each other. Blue Neep, maybe. There we go. That sounds better. My handwriting, people. And then we've got Damaris, who is Kathy from New Mexico, and Freakish Lemon, who is Adrian, and Tracy GH, who's from Canada. Tracy. And when I see the letters GH, I always think of General Hospital because I spent so many years talking about General Hospital online. I don't know if that's why she has a GH in her name, but that's what I think of. Yes, I was a definite soap person for many years. So that was totally off topic, huh? All right, so those are our newest members who have introduced themselves. Thanks for coming and doing that, guys. We are going to jump right in to our knitting community section and have some contest fun. We've got contest winners and a new contest. So I have gone ahead and done some random number generators because it's easier to just do that beforehand. So we had two knit-alongs going on. The first one is the Conversation Cow. That's what I'm knitting my new one for. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. And so this was any knits that you could work on while you were doing other things. So for me, that tends to be talking or watching something or playing games. Conversation knits are perfect for that. Even knitting that I can do on a bus. Things that I don't have to do a lot of engaging into a pattern, like looking at my device to see what I'm doing. Those are conversation knits. So we've had a great first quarter of conversation knits, and I have heard back from a few people that they're definitely interested in continuing with this knit along. So the ConvoCal will be quarterly. We'll see if we have prizes. We may or may not. Might just be some little basic things, but that will be starting up again. So I'll start a new thread for second quarter. But we have prizes for first quarter. So, all right, here are some prizes. So, our prize that was donated for this is, I have them attached together here, Creations by Uli. And she makes the Creations by Uli jewelry that I had, the chainmail stuff, and then Knitter's Nook bling for knitters. So she donated a set of her stitch markers, and these are little sunshine and clouds and bright happy colors, and I think they are just so adorable. They are the stitch markers that I'm using on my Nugum are hers as well, and they're so nice. That's the main one, and then there's small ones that just have the chainmail. So the person who is winning this little collection of loveliness, I've got some other little goodies, some samples from Woolen Vine and Lola Bar that were kindly donated. The winner for this, oh, my notes are over here, is To Be Anna B. And she did some beautiful self-striping socks for one of her conversation knit along projects, and it's such cool yarn. I really loved those. So for everybody who wins today, please send me a PM. Anna, I need your address. Since you're in the UK, it might take me a little longer to get to the mail because I'll have to go to the post office to send your prize to you. But we'll get that going. Just might take a little longer to get your way. So send me a PM with your full name and mailing address. All right, so then I have two runner-up prizes. One, I'm donating a pattern of the winner's choice up to $7. And that goes to number 7, who's Julie R. Knits. Hi, Julie. So PM me with what pattern you would like me to gift you, and I will send that your way. Up to $7, please. And then for a pattern of mine, something that I've designed, you can go look at my profile. I'm Christine with K on Ravelry. You can look at mine and choose one of my patterns, and that is number 6, who is Java Jenny. And Java Jenny is the one who makes my lovely pink bags that are in several of my projects right now. All right, so that's the ConvoCal. I'm so excited. All right, so then we have the Harmonized Knit Along. Sneak peek at finished objects. I don't have my long one here, but this is the other short one. And we had 6 people who finished their harmonized cowls. It was so much fun to see how all the different yarns worked up. Some people used hand spun, some people used some really cool color combinations. And so we have 2 prizes for this. So the first one, I found these awesome bags that Holla Knits had screen printed up. And I love the yarn ball clouds raining. They're like little stitches falling from the balls of yarn into a little puddle. So this one and the one that I got, which is down here, they were seconds, and so they're not quite printed all the way. See, there's a little blotch over here that's not quite as dark, but this one's pretty good. There's just a little fading. But I got one for me and one for you guys. So this is this and a handmade scarf by me and a notebook from when I saw Vera and Hoki at Happy Knits, and a couple other little treats in there. These will be going to Ekelio. Ekelio knit a beautiful harmonize in colors that reminded me of some markers I had. I had a set of markers that was orange and purple and jungle greens like that, and I loved them. And I loved how she's made it work with a Mobius. It still works perfect. What a great idea. Even if you do that unintentionally, it turned out really nice. You totally can't even tell with it wrapped around. So I think that's really cool that she was happy with her item, and I'm excited for her. So, Kelly, if you'll send me a PM with your full name and your mailing address, I will get that mailed out to you. Your bag of goodies. So the other winner for the Harmonize Cal is for a pattern of mine. So you can go look at my list of patterns, and I will gift that to you. And that goes to number 1, who is Annetta T. Thank you for all of your conversation in our contest threads. I really appreciate it, Annetta. So, yes, everybody PM me. The people who have patterns that they want, pick out your patterns before you PM me. And the 2 people that won physical prizes, send me your address. So thank you, everybody, for participating. It was really cool. We had 20 people in the Convo Cal and 6 people in the Harmonize Cal. All right, so those were our current contests that ended. We now have a new contest. Well, we have the second quarter of the Conversation Cal. That'll be the same thing. But we also have an awesome donation. So this absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, sparkly pinkiness is from Three Fates Yarn. And Three Fates is Stefania. She is a local dyer to me, and she is a board game geek, just like me. She was at Game Storm. And this is Sergi Goes Punk is the colorway, and it's her sparkle base. I don't know what the sparkle base is called. And she donated this for me to give to you guys. And I love this color. So I'm going to start a thread. The prompt will be, if you were a color, what color would you be? I think I would be sparkly pink. That probably doesn't surprise you guys, huh? So we will leave this open until, oh, what is the date today? I guess I should have figured that out. We will leave this open for the next few weeks. So how about the podcast that I record the week of the 20th? So get your entry in by the 19th, and I will draw for this and ship it out to you. Yay! So cool to have people give me stuff to be able to pass on to you, because I'm really excited that you'll get to use her yarn. I'm going to be knitting a sweater with her yarn this month too, so there's that. All right, so that was our knitting community, a little bit earlier in the episode than normal, but I wanted to get all the contest news out to you guys first up. I didn't want to wait. Okay, so life stories, I think I said, I've just been busy. We did Easter. It was really nice. went to church and did an Easter egg hunt. I've had a couple different times when I've spent times with my oldest niece and nephew, and it's just been good. Besides that, I've been resting. I've been trying to heal my back after whatever I did to it. I'm going to have some physical therapy coming up for that. So yeah, things are going well. So let's move into yarnings and adventures in knitting. So my finished object, my first finished object, I have two, is my Harmonize. This is out of my hand spun. Where's the little skein? Let's see if that shows up any better. This is 50% cashmere, 50% silk. Doesn't quite want to focus, but I had spun 3 different braids of fiber when I made my hand spun Abigail Cardi. Abby Cardi? I think I called it Melly in my project notes. And I was still a really new spinner, and so my 3 plies were not all exactly the same. So I had a little bit left over of this. So I chain plied, and I had 39 grams or something along those lines. Let's see, where is my little thing? It will tell me. I started with 19 grams. Okay, not 39. And this is 1 gram that's left. So I did it on a little bit larger needles. I did it on size 5 instead of what it calls for size 4. So it would be a little more open because I didn't have very much yarn. So obviously it's shorter. There's less lace repeats, less chevron repeats, but I think it works nice like a necklace. Like in the place of wearing a necklace, I could wear this. And it lays so nicely with the, the cashmere content. It feels so good. And yeah, I had a little bit left, but I didn't want to risk having to pick out the bind off if I didn't have quite enough. And so I went ahead and stopped. I could have done 1 more row. I'm sure of that, but yeah, I didn't. It is a little more fragile because it is the hand spun, so I figured I'd be safer than sorry. And yeah, 1 gram isn't going to do too much, but it'll go in my pretty glass bowl with my favorite little bitty skeins. So I'm really pleased with this. It was so nice to get to finish this up, and now I have this pretty little thing to wear. So the other finished object, not knock these over, is this little sweater for my niece. So this is the Playful Stripes cardigan. It still needs a hook and eye. I'm going to do, I think, 2 hook and eyes up near the top. And it turned out really great. You can see the picot edge on the bottom and the way that the garter rows on the inside look versus on the outside. The top is still rolling a little bit. I tried to block it pretty firmly, but I think it'll be okay. Because I decided not to do buttons and buttonholes, I did something interesting on the button bands. I made them colorful. So there's striping on this side, gray and green, and there's like pixelating color work on this side, just to be a little more interesting for a little girl sweater. I thought that would give a little touch of whimsy on the inside, and since she would be wearing it just attached at the top, those edges could easily fly open, and then you'd see the fun. It's kind of instead of using some grosgrain ribbon. I figured I still had some of the yarn. I might as well knit it up and add it to the button band. So I finished that, and I still have a bunch of little bits of of yarn that were left and two half skeins of the gray. So I put a fair amount of yarn into that, and I'm really excited with how it turned out. The folding over of the picot edge turned out really nice looking, and the seaming up of the sleeves turned out okay. So yeah, it was a fair amount of work, and weaving it. Oh, the other reason why I did the fancier edging was because all of these ends had to be woven in. And so I wove most of them in, but I was afraid that they would still find their way out. And so what I did was I wove them in, and then I stuck them into this facing. So the longer pieces of the end are hidden underneath here. And it makes it a little thicker, but I think it's going to make it so that those ends aren't going to come out. It is cotton, so it's mostly Knit Picks Comfy Sport. There's a little bit of Simply cotton for two of the colors. It's mostly Comfy Sport, so it's got a fair amount of cotton that doesn't like to stick to itself. So I thought that was a good idea. And the other thing that's going with this is Annie and the Swiss cheese scarf, because the sweater that Annie is wearing is the Playful Stripes. So I think that will be a nice thing to put together for her. So that's that. Let's look at some works in progress. I put quite a bit of work on my socks. So these are my Hermione's Everyday Sock. And I have heels, and the back of the heels is starting to get the pattern now. So now I just need to do however much of the leg I feel like. You can't see the stitch pattern too much in this yarn, but it still was a really interesting thing to do for these, rather than just plain stockinette like you'd see on the bottom of the sock. Flip that one around, that's the bottom of the sock. It gives it a little bit more texture. So that's my socks. They should be done pretty soon, because I would really like to cast on another pair that I'm a little more in love with. This is pretty serviceable sock yarn. It's not as fun to knit with as some of them. It's great. I'm sure they're going to wear wonderfully, but it's not as fun to knit with. So I think that what I'm going to cast on next is what I got at the yarn crawl, the stripy thoroughly thwacked, because that'll be fun for birthday socks. And then I have what I was knitting on at the beginning, my Nuvum. This is the problem, is when I'm knitting on it at the beginning, I don't always pull my needles all the way in. Here we go. All right, so my Nuvum's getting bigger. Look at that, how much of that red stripe I've got. It's still pretty full. So I've still got a bit to go, but it's looking beautiful. And I do love it. It's just taking a while. I mean, it's going to be 440 yards times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's a lot of yardage. So lots more conversation knitting to go. So after I do the red, after the red is gone, let's just for fun see how much is left in here. My scale over here. There's still half of the skein of red, so I've still got a little less than that amount more to do. And then I have a small, where's the gray? Here you are. So this is what's left of the gray after I did the little in-between gray stripes between the colors. So this will be the edging, the ruffle, and where the beads go. So that'll take a little longer to do the beads, but I'm really excited about that prospect. Beads always seem to go fast for me. So that is the Novum by Martina Bem and Niptic's Shadow. And then finally, my Spirited Clouds Cardi. This is growing, but it kind of feels a little like the black hole of knitting because I keep knitting and knitting and knitting. It feels like it hasn't gone far enough. So I measured last night and the underarm was at like 11. So I still need to get to 14 before I do the next design feature. So you can see that goes to about, if I step back a little so you can see, it goes about to the top of my leggings. So it's a long sweater. The design feature will decrease the fronts because they're long. It'll decrease those. So then it will be less stitches as I go around. I still have a ton of yarn. So it feels a little black hole knitting. And the fact that I'm knitting on 2 lace weight, and I have been since beginning of February. I think I cast on this in January, and then I cast on the Novum in February. So I've been knitting on lace weight for 2 lace weight projects for the last 2 months. And so the smaller things that I've finished in between feel kind of inconsequential because I haven't finished these. I knew that going into it they were going to be long-term projects, but it's still a little, feels like it's taking forever. So I will keep working on that. This is the Spirited Clouds pattern by Elena Nodal, and it's in a Bumble Birch cocoon that I bought last year on my way to Zombie Knitpocalypse because of course there wasn't going to be any yarn there. I bought it online. I was so excited for this color though. I love this blue. It's so beautiful. So that's that. The next thing that I'll be casting on is my 3 Fates in her merino nylon base. But I swatched for it and then I got really busy and I didn't write down what 2 different needle sizes I used to swatch for. One of them is closer to gauge than the other, but I didn't write it down. So I'm going to go look at and see if I put any notes somewhere, but I may have to re-swatch. That's what happens. I felt so poorly with my back problem. There was a couple days where I was just dazed. So this happened. I swatched for this like right before it happened, and so then to have a few days where I was dazed didn't help. So that's coming, as I've been saying. All right, so spinning a tail. We'll move into that. And I spun a little bit more at the library last week. Have a new nice prettiness. But I noticed that, I don't know that you'll be able to see this, I noticed that there's a crack that I guess it's on that side. The top of my spindle has a little crack in the plastic. So I don't remember dropping it on that end. When I've dropped it, it's been downward drop spindle while it's spinning. So that's a little disappointing. It's not a big enough crack that I have caught the fiber on it yet. And I haven't contacted them to see if there are any options for fixing them. But it's on the East Coast, so I'd have to ship it to them, and yeah. I probably could get another base. I wouldn't need to rebuy the arms. And that might be an option because I'm really enjoying spinning on this. We'll see. We'll see if it gets any worse, if I can continue spinning with it as it is, and I might just leave it. This is some mystery fiber BFL swirl from Gail's Art that I got at Rhinebeck. So those are all of the adventures in knitting and spinning a tale. Let's move into some other stuff. So, Sagas of Geekery, now playing. This last 2 weeks, I've played a few games, not as many because I wasn't sitting at the table as easily. But we did play Patchwork. I taught that to Leah for Aunt Christine's knitting school. We played Legendary here and there several times, and I did teach that to the kids when they came over last week. We played Race for the Galaxy, and when we play that, we usually play a couple games because you gotta see who can win best out of 2 or 3. We each won one game, and it was a fun sitting of them. And then we played Castles of Burgundy. And so those Legendary, Race for the Galaxy, and Castles of Burgundy are some of my very favorites. So those were some good ones to get in between other busyness. International Tabletop Day, #Tabletop Day, is going to be happening this Saturday. So if you play a game, you should hashtag it with that. If you're not already participating in the Fiber and Dice podcast challenges, you should also go take a look at those too, because those two things work really well together. I don't know if we will be going to a gaming store, our local game store on Saturday on the actual Tabletop Day or not. If we do, it'll probably be to Dice Age, our Vancouver game store, because normal strategy board gaming at the big store in Portland, Guardian, is the following day. So we probably won't go to Guardian 2 different days in a row. So I should be playing some more new games that I haven't played, or some old favorites that we don't own. So that should be fun. Okay. So that was on Saturday, April 11th. Let me get the actual date in there. That might help you guys. So for our Sagas of Geekery now watching, I've been continuing to watch Stargate SG-1. I'm on season 3 now. So we've had some really good episodes, and I'm enjoying that. It's just kind of low impact. I don't have to use my brain too much, and so when I wasn't feeling well, those definitely were good ones to tune into. We've also been watching, we were trying to catch up on Castle. I think we still have 3 on the TiVo, and then the current episodes of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. have been amazing. And then we went back to start rewatching S.H.I.E.L.D. season 1. So I think we're 7 or 8 episodes in on that. So that's been fun to rewatch because things change so much in the season that to see what perspective these people had with the new knowledge of what happened the end of the season, towards the end of the season, is a really fun perspective. So I've been enjoying that. And the more I watch all of these Marvel things, and the more I hear on the internet, the more I get excited for Avengers. Avengers, directed and written by Joss Whedon, one of my very favorite directors. That is coming out on May 1st. So I will see that at least once in the theater, and you will probably be hearing me get a little more gaga over it as we move towards that direction, because that I've been looking forward to that for some time, since the last one came out. So let's move into Book of Cooking. I have made some fun things here and there in the last few weeks. I think I just jiggled everything. I'm sorry. Sorry, little computer. I made ravioli extravaganza, which is just a silly name for a fancy ravioli dish that I make. It has tons of awesome veggies and craisins and roasted garlic, all stirred up with cooked ravioli. It's delicious. So I will link to that recipe and everything that I talk about today in the show notes. I made a Middle Eastern inspired frittata with seasonings that seemed more, the main one was garam masala, and that turned out really good with yams and peppers. Yeah, and then I bake it. That same night, I made Huggy Buggy bread pudding, which is a recipe from the Arty Party cookbook, which I still have checked out from the library. And it's a coconut bread pudding, and she had cashews and figs, and so I did macadamia nuts and mango and a little coconut for a little bit, but I still used her same flavor seasonings of cinnamon, cardamom, and ginger, so it still had that Middle Eastern flavor. And then for Easter, I brought pasta salad, which is another recipe that is a family one that is easy to do and nice to bring a lot of, and we have a ton left over. So we will be having that tonight still. Okay, so, oh, and then I'm drinking Stumptown coffee mixed with Oregon chai and some vanilla creamer. It's still warm. This mug, this is a Contigo mug, and it stays pretty warm, especially if I close the little thing. It wasn't closed, but it's still pretty warm. All right, so fanciful chatter. Obviously, you already saw my now wearing. I like to sparkle even when I'm having a low energy day. So today, no shower, my hair is just up on top of my head. I'm going to be getting a haircut this week, and I'm excited about that because it's getting a little long and unruly. So I've been pointing it up because it doesn't feel very classy right now. So I've been sticking it all up on top of my head and going that way. But I have a little clip, little butterfly clip that I've had since I got married around that era. I've got sparkly earrings that I actually wore to Easter yesterday, so I stuck them back on to show you guys. And my shirt is sparkly. So sparkle. Doesn't have to be a fancy day to have a little sparkle. Sparkle is good. And then for my other silly fanciful chatter, meet my mascot. This is the Yarnings mascot, I do believe. Don't you think she should be our mascot? Isn't she adorable? I think that her name's going to be Pinky. So, I had been going to Safeway the last few weeks, and they had these sheepies, and I kept hugging them and telling Eric that he should get it for me for my Easter basket. He wasn't quite as amused as me. So I just shared my hugs for the lammies that were there at the time. And so when we went this week, I bought myself a lammy. Boing, boing, boing. She's so cute. And she's a pink lamb, so that was even more fun. So I think Pinky, the sheepy, is going to be part of our show. She might sit up here. Maybe I can find a spot on the shelf where she can peek out and see you guys. Wouldn't that be nice? I think I'm gonna have to prop her just right. I don't really want her taking a nosedive, though. That would be sad. So that's part of my silly, fanciful chatter for today. And then the happiness continues. It's April. I love April. April's my birthday month. But beyond that, it's just the start of spring. I love seeing the spring. It makes me happy that everything is fresh and new, and you can see the beauty that God made everywhere around you. It is a season of rebirth and new beginnings, and I am really happy that it's April. So that's my happiness for this week. Okay, we are 40 minutes in. I did pretty good getting through 2 weeks worth of stuff. So I will tell you where you can follow me around on the internet. I am Christine with a K on Ravelry. You can follow me on Instagram as KDLB, just the letters. You can join our Ravelry group as the Yarnings podcast on Ravelry. And You can find the show notes with links to everything that I talk about at yarningspodcast.com, all squished together. All right, guys, until next week, that's the story.